You're about to listen to an archived episode of The Night Shift with Zeno Horoman. This is brought to you commercial-free by the Surfcast Podcast. If you're interested in more historical, educational, and entertaining surf fishing content, check out weekly episodes of the Surfcast Podcast available today on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts, including www.surfcastpodcast.com.
It is my pleasure to introduce to the Night Shift Podcast, Pete Utschig. Many of you know Pete. He's on the pro staff of many brands that you guys fish. And he's not just a rising star, judging by a seminar last week at the Surf Day. He's a stud. Pete, welcome to the Night Shift Podcast, and it's nice to see you after 2 days of relaxation.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see you again, Tuesday.
How was the show for you? How was the show for you?
The show was awesome.
Okay.
You know, just being able to see everybody after not seeing a lot of faces for 2 years with the COVID and stuff, and you know, it's funny when you see guys at shows, everyone wants to see each other. It's the complete opposite of our culture. Most of the times, we never want to be seen, and then you go.
In fact, you're hiding from other people.
Right, yeah, 90% of the time. But you go to a show and then you see all the people that it's such a feel good vibe when you go to shows like that. And I had a blast, and we had back-to-back shows. We had your guys' show and then this one, and it was it just feels good and gets you psyched to go fishing.
Right, and Pete, for those of you who don't know, he's just going to Florida in a few hours, and his zipper is broke on his cooler. He's pretty pissed off.
Yeah, perfect. Just like every fishing trip, nothing exactly goes according to plan, and you kind of got to think on your feet and figure something out. So
but you know, sometimes those nights when you think everything's gonna fall apart end up being one of the most memorable nights ever.
Yeah. You're 100% right. That one night you go out with 2 bucktails and a popper, and all of a sudden you get into the biggest fish of your life. You could pack for weeks and have a perfect trip planned and not catch anything, and the one day you decide to go 10 minutes from your house, and there they are.
All right, listen, most of the fish that I ever seen is when I don't have a rod anywhere near close to me. You know, you walk with your wife or something like that. You know the feeling.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Give me a bit of a background on how did you get started in the surf fishing in general. I don't think I know your backstory at all.
My family had a house down in Long Beach Island in the Jersey Shore. So I used to always fish during the summer times, but never would catch very much. I would just throw bait like everybody else. And
most of us
but
started the same way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it, and I loved being out there. And one weekend, my grandmother asked if I could come down and paint the house, so I went down to help her. And it must have been before the season. So we usually go down in June, July, and August. And I was there in probably late May, and New Jersey gets a really good bite late May into June. And I was walking the beach, and I saw a woman with these 2 huge fish under a chair. And I'm like, what are those? She's like, well, they're striped bass. And I said, well, I've never seen anybody catch any striped bass here. She's like, they're all over the place. I'm like, but I never catch them. She's like, well, when do you fish? And I said, July and August. She's like, oh, no. You come in May and June, and then you come back in October and November, you could catch them. And it kind of intrigued me. And actually, I think I stopped that day at like 4 or 5 different people that were fishing, and all of them had the same results. Nice striped bass underneath it, you know, in the sand to take home with them. And I was like, wow, I got to do this. This is great. And then I used to do extreme sports, and when I stopped doing that, I needed to find something to keep myself busy. And I loved fishing, and I said, let me try this out. And
so there was a gap in between you being young and actually, because you were doing what, the paintball stuff and, you know, like really competitive stuff. You're not like a weekend angler shit.
No. I used to play on a team out of California and one out of Budapest for paintball. So I would travel all over the place. And when that was over, I said I got to do something to stay busy. So I went right back into fishing, and I went back the way I knew. I would throw bait and sit in a chair, and it wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be. So I stopped into Fisherman's Headquarters, and I looked at all these fancy lures on the wall, and I said, wow, they're not carrying these if they don't catch fish. There's no way they're here. And I talked to a guy who ended up being a great friend of mine, still is, and one of my fishing mentors, Greg from Fisherman's Headquarters, and he gave me a couple tips, and I think I started down the path like everybody did. I went out, lost every lure in my bag. I learned what a wind knot was really quick, multiple times, and probably wanted to give up fishing for a good 6 months to a year before I even started catching any fish.
Now, you mentioned the May, June bite and then October. That was not really happening right now in Jersey.
No, sad to say that the Chesapeake fish have been depleted, and we used to be able to go down early season and fish southern Jersey and catch those big breeder fish coming out of the Chesapeake. And I mean, they were hungry. They've just been having their fish spring break. They're all down
Yeah.
there mating, and now they're coming out and they're looking to eat. And you'd be able to catch really nice fish, trophy fish. But because of, I mean, obviously the stocks and the pollution and everything we know, the Chesapeake fishery is depleted. You could go, I mean, I still go down there all the time, but I don't do nearly as well as we did, 10 years ago. Now you're lucky to get one solid fish every 3 or 4 outings instead of getting a lot of solid fish every outing. So,
But
just
the spring bite now, it seemed to move off in a Raritan Bay, especially the early bite.
yeah,
I'm not, it's still people keep it to themselves, which I actually appreciated that it's not all over the place. But that May, June bite in October, that thing is a thing of a past in Jersey.
it is. I mean, the guys that fish a lot, if you like anywhere else, like how we fish.
Oh yeah, they'll still get their fish. Absolutely,
Right.
agreed.
You put your
100%.
time in, you'll get your
Yes.
fish, but it's not like what it used to be, and that's a little bit sad. I mean, up by us, obviously the Hudson socket fish is still pretty strong, like we saw with the Raritan. There's good fish in there. If you go out and you fish a lot, you could definitely catch some fish. I mean, we could talk about spots, but I'll probably get killed by everybody I know.
No.
I'm messing
we don't
around.
do spots. Yeah, no, I know you are. We don't do spots on this podcast. That's the last thing. But you know what? It's nice when this fishing season, show season rolls around, especially after this surf day. Like every consecutive show that you go to, the guys will come up to your table and be like, the bite is on. Like it's starting to heat up, and and I know the spots, and we don't discuss. I don't particularly care when people tell me where they catch. I'd rather not know because I might spill it inadvertently, and I don't want to do that. I really don't. But it's a good bite. It really is a good bite.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you could see the size of the fish getting larger every year. Like it used to be where you could go and you'd catch a lot of like small to slot size fish, and now you're starting to see a lot bigger. Either we're seeing, I think, a lot bigger fish, or a lot more fish, which are getting the bigger fish more aggressive. So in times when they used to be able to pick what they were going to eat, now they have to. Now they really have to eat anything they see because those little fish are now big enough to eat bunker. So those 20-inch fish that would be maybe scaring the bunker or corralling them are now eating them because they're 24 to 28-inch fish and making that 36 to 40-inch fish have to eat or he's going to lose it. So it's great.
Do you have to have one of those fancy metal lips to catch those fish?
Of course.
That's what I told. That's why I want to go to the shows. I mean, that's just.
My partner Fred was saying it best. He said when he talks to guys about what to fish, he said fish whatever you're confident in. Fish what you know is going to catch. And yeah, metal lips are great. I think there's something mysterious about a metal lip. I don't know what it is that draws people to metal lips, myself included. They cast awful. The fish spit them out 90% of the time because they can't get.
You lose more fish than any other plug.
100%. They're very tough to fish a lot of times, but when guys go to shows, that's what they're looking for, is that metal lip, that color, that size, whatever is producing. And there's just something about a metal lip that's special. And I can't really put my finger on it, but I have a million of them and I love them. And if you'll talk to fishermen, you'll see if they can throw anything, a lot of times that's what they want to throw. And I don't know if it's because it hits explosive. Maybe because it's so much bigger and the profile gets in your head that you think, all right, now I'm going to get a larger fish. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure what it is, but the people love them. I love them.
I would say, for me personally, that hit is the only better visual if you're fishing a topwater metal lip is the pencil popper in the daytime. That's something that's close by, especially when a fish is really pissed off and keeps going after your plug. But that metal lip, it can really, really. I mean, some nights a cutty hunk with a 40-pound bass smacks a metal lip. That's just like somebody threw a car in the water. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know
that adds
and you
the
lose
allure
it
of
five cranks later, but that's okay.
It's as it spits it right out. It's got this big piece of wood.
Well, you go to the
top.
rig eel and you stick him. You're like, you're not coming out this time.
Yeah. It's funny. It's fun. I do the same thing. After losing like 3 or 4, I put the thing away right to a jig or a soft plastic. I'm like, this one's gonna stick.
Do you remember? Do you remember the first fish that you caught when you got into the sport, where you went like, "Holy shit, this is a big fish"?
The first.
Something that made impression on you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
the first.
it wasn't even a fish that I caught. I remember I was fishing with my brother, and we were still fishing bait at the time, and we were learning how to kind of find where to fish out, like by where we lived in where we were fishing in Jersey. And we noticed that anytime we found water that looked a little bit different, if we went back at night, we seemed to catch fish there. So we didn't really know about structure or stuff like that, but we would kind of walk around during the day, and that was part of our adventure. Like, okay, let's come here tonight. Let's go there. And one night we had stopped, and we fished a spot. My brother caught a really, really big striped bass on a bunker chunk, but it took so long fighting this fish that I still see him like walking down the beach with it, and we were both our hearts were pumping, and then we landed it and we killed it, and we were so happy and so proud. We took so many pictures, and it was a big fish. It was a 30 to 40-pound fish. We didn't have a scale, but I remember at that point thinking, wow, I want to learn how to do this. I don't want to just fish where I get a couple bend in the pole or something. I want that fish to take me where my heart's pumping, where I don't know what's going to happen. I think that's the great part of the sport. And for me, that was also a turning point. Me and my brother, we didn't know anything about conservation, and we were going to eat the fish. But we looked at that fish, and we both said to each other, we're never killing another big fish again that we don't have to. Because we felt so bad afterwards at this beautiful animal that we killed. And didn't go to waste. The whole neighborhood ate that, but we still, that was the first fish that really had a memorable experience on me. I can still tell you what my brother was wearing, what I was wearing, our grandfather's old fishing pole that we reeled it in on.
All anybody wants to hear, does that spot still produce?
Yeah, I think it does. We don't have that house. We don't have that house anymore. But yeah, the last 2 hours of the incoming, if you fish bunker,
yes, it's funny how you remember the tides on the good spots, for a lifetime. Like it never goes away. Even the spots that don't work anymore. Like you're like, that used to be a great spot.
Right, and you could be riding your bike or walking by, and you'll always stop to look, always, and be like, man, I wonder if there's any fish in there still.
Do you now strictly, and I'm not anybody can do whatever they want. I'm pretty fine with anybody taking a fish for the table, but is that your thing now, like catch and release most of the time strictly? Is that how you see yourself?
90% of the time, catch and release.
Okay.
As a plug fish, I believe in sustainable fishery. I believe
I do too. I don't mind taking a fish here and there at all.
No, I think they're delicious. And if I have like 5 or 6 different striped bass recipes that I like to go to, but I don't think keeping the big fish is the best idea. And I also understand that, and anyone that fishes a lot knows that you're going to kill a fish here or there while you're fishing. So I try not to take any until I have to. Until one eats it.
I feel the same way. Sometimes we'll die on you or fall in the rock or something will happen. It happens.
Yeah, it happens. And I'll keep a fish then. And it's also, it's like a little bit of a conundrum because I've released very big fish that I know don't have a chance of making it, but you can't keep it because it's oversized. And you also don't want to promote the killing of such a big fish in any way. So it's a tough area when you fish for really big fish, because sometimes they have a tough time swimming off.
Well, Vito always used to say that the fish that you keep have no chance to survive. So like he said, even if the thing is wounded, is missing half of the tail, it still has a chance. The one in your cooler has no chance.
I couldn't agree more than that. That's a good
So
one. I
he's
like
got
that.
a point there. And you know what? Like in the old days, I mean, I started fishing during conservation, so I was always kind of conservation bent. But when fishing got so good, it was almost too easy to take a fish and not see anything wrong with it. For me, I'm talking from personal experience. It's almost becoming like a treat, even although it happens because, like you said, something goes wrong or something the fish just doesn't make it. And that's the ones that I usually, and of course, those are the ones when you're 3 miles off the truck or swim out to the rock somewhere and you're like, really?
Yeah.
Here, you're going to do this to me? But that's Murphy's Law. That happens to all of us. Give me a little bit of background on I mean, you went from greenhorn to, elite fisherman. No, I'm not going to say fairly fast, but
I wouldn't know about that. But
well, you guys, your crew, I see what you guys do, and everybody else does. So, I mean, you're not asking to speak at the major seminars because you're not. But what is Comanche Crew? How did that name came about, and how did that whole crew came about?
well, we so I can't take credit to being. I learned a lot of fishing through, like everybody else, through their mentors, and I just have been lucky enough to have some of the best mentors in the game. When I decided to go from bait fishing to plug fishing, I cheated 100%, and at that point I just finished playing paintball, and we were teaching something called a pro school all over the world. So they would invite pro players to go teach people how to play paintball, and they would pay us, and we'd have a good time, and we would show tricks and stuff. So after I was in Fisherman's headquarters that day with Greg, I said, well, I don't really understand what's going on. I don't know how any of these things work. Do you guys do like a pro school for fishing? And he's like, no, not really. He's like, but there are guides. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go out and catch fish. I want to learn how to catch fish. And he said, well, maybe I got the guy just for you. So he introduced me to Dante from Magic Tales. And I got in touch with him, and he said, oh, well, you want to go on and he's from Long Beach Island also. And he said, okay, you want to hire me as a guide? And I said, well, I kind of want to learn how to fish. I don't really want to just go catch fish. I want to learn how to use these different lures and why and when. So I went with him one time, and I had brought a notebook, which he was kind of surprised, and he taught once he realized that I wanted to learn how to fish and not just go catch fish. He kind of took me under his wing, and whenever he was out fishing, he would give me tips, or he would call me, and it just opened my eyes, because I like learning why things are happening, not just that they are happening. Like, why am I catching fish? Why am I not? Why am I catching big fish? Why is this a good spot? Why is this not a good spot? And I learned from him, and then I lucked out one day. I ran into Fred, who's my fishing partner in Comanche, on the Cape Cod Canal, and we have conflicting stories on exactly how we met. I think my memory's a little better than his, but we met one day when no one was around, and we got to talking, and he said, oh, I'm from Philly. I said, oh, I'm from New York City. And he's like, I got to go back to the room. I'm with my buddy Fred and Greg and Blake. And I said, oh, I know Greg, Fisherman's headquarters. He's like, yeah. And I let him borrow my bike, and he was kind of surprised. He's like, you're going to let me ride your bike? He's like, what if I don't come back? I just met you. I'm like, you're not going to steal my bike. He's like, I'm from Philly. I'm like, well, maybe he's going to steal my bike. But he came back, and we kind of just, we all clicked, because we were just a group of guys who loved fishing. Like, we liked the adventure, believe it or not. There was not, very rarely was it about catching big fish. It was about going to cool places and learning, and like just the allure of doing stuff. And Greg had the idea to rent a camper and go to Montauk for a week, and instantly we were all in. We're like, yeah, of course we want to do that. That's great. What an adventure! And that kind of started us off on our path.
Where did the Comanche name came from?
That came from that year in Montauk. It was about 8 or 9 years ago, maybe somewhere around there. But the usual plugs that were being used, of course, were during the fall, were big needles, darters, your regular arsenal bucktails, and a lot of guys. We had the wetsuits to do the whole swimming thing. We were catching fish on the south side, point to point to point, using SP minnows. There was a sand eel run at that point, and a lot of times at night, guys were way, way out, and we were hearing that the bite wasn't good, and we were doing extremely well with the fish. And we were finding that if we could find what point the fish were staged on, we would whack a good number of fish, each of us, and some solid ones, and then the fish would disappear. So we didn't, there's two different thoughts of fishing the south side. It's either get out as far as you can and fish on one spot until the tide's out, or bounce around and know when or where to be based off of how the water looks or whatever's going on. And we found that if we were able to each spread out and go spot to spot to spot, that we could find the fish, and we would yell to each other like we were wild Indians in the middle of the night. We would, yoo! And you knew somebody was hooked up, and you'd be in your wetsuit and you'd be running down the boulders and you'd be tripping all over the place, but you knew you had to get there quick before that one guy had beaten up on all the fish, and then we'd each catch a handful of fish, and then we would split out and we would just leapfrog again, and we would start all the way in the trailer park, and we would work ourselves almost down past Caswell's. It's a good, I don't know, 2-mile stretch on those boulders, but we were putting together solid catches of fish once we learned to be able to communicate. And it was better than, we didn't want to flash lights because we learned from the Montauk guys, no lights, don't do this. And, we talked about radios, and nobody had good cell phones that you could use on the south side. So we yelled like Indians. And we said, well, the Comanches are a tribe of Indians that were warriors that attacked only at night. And we said, oh, this is pretty cool. We'll just call each other Comanches. And that's, yeah.
I mean, I knew the story. I just want you to tell it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
yeah. A bunch of 30-year-old men dressed in wetsuits running around the rocks, screaming to each other in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like culturally appropriate today. We might get in trouble here, but I'm joking, dude. Come on. I can't take life that seriously. Really? I mean, we got to live it a little.
You never know these days, though.
No, yeah, you know what? I don't care. I mean, I respect everybody's history and all that, but this is not meant to be offensive. This is meant to be something else. But you can argue that point till the cows come home. Was Montauk in particular a difficult place for you to learn or adjust?
Very difficult, but once again, we cheated. I can't take a ton of credit for it. Chris Voorhees, I had met Chris through the Gateway Striper Club. And anyone who knows Chris knows that he's extremely secretive. He's extremely secretive to the point that he's a pain in the ass to fish with sometimes because he won't fish around anybody. He won't, if there's anyone anywhere near the area he wants to fish, we're packing up and leaving. If somebody shows up while we're fishing, we're packing up and leaving. So when I first met him, he didn't want to talk to me. We're at club meetings. Chris is a gentleman and a sweetheart of a guy, but he didn't want to be rude. Me being a brand new guy, not knowing it wasn't okay to say, hey man, do you want to go fishing? He's like, well, yeah, I'm going to go fishing. You're like, well, let's go together. He'd be like, no, I'm okay. I'm, doing my own thing. And I didn't know the culture yet and didn't understand. I'm like, wow, why didn't this guy want to fish with me? We're the same age. We live in the same area. And somebody explained it to me. It was like, oh, this is, you can't just ask a fisherman of that caliber to like go fishing with him. So I would talk to him at meetings and stuff, and eventually after a nice bottle of Jameson and buttering him up a little bit.
He's got to take pity on you. Just admit it.
He took a little pity on me and said, all right, let's see if this guy wants to actually go out and fish. And we started fishing the other side of Jones a lot because it was of the area. I ran into you one day. I think I followed you. I followed you in the Silver Fox one day to the back.
Oh, with Lenny, yeah.
I think there were weak fish over in the hole over there. I couldn't get them. You guys were, but so I fished with Chris a little bit, and one day he's like, "Hey, do you want to come out to Montauk?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we went out there, and he kind of showed us, where to park and kind of how if you fished during the summer and found the smaller fish, and when they were biting, when the migration came, those bigger fish would be in the same areas at the same times. And we would pound it. We pounded it all summer. Any chance we got was jump in the car and go out to Montauk. And, it's like anything else. The more time you put in an area, the more you learn. May not be what you think you're learning. Like you may go out and fish all night and not catch anything, but maybe you ran into somebody and he didn't talk to you at all. And maybe the next time the same thing happened and he didn't talk to you at all. And then the third time you run into the same guy and it's sideways rain. And this is the third time you've seen that guy. And now he starts talking to you a little bit. Those 3 trips have now added up to that little bit of information that you may learn from that local guy when he's like, all right, this guy's okay. I've seen him out here 3 different times at 4:00 in the morning and now it's sideways rain. There's been no bite. And he's like, hey, how you been doing? You're like, oh, not really that good. I've been doing this, this, and this. And It's like, oh, maybe you got to push out a little further, or maybe you got to pay a little attention to this. That little tidbit information adds up to a lifetime of knowledge. And that's kind of what we learned in Montauk is we would go and pound and pound and pound and learn and pound and learn and pound. And back then the fish told you if you were doing it right or you were doing it wrong because there were more fish then. But that's kind of how we learned how to fish over there. It was the
Now,
locals.
you also have a nose for catching big fish. Is it that because you target them? Give me some input on this. Do you go out of your way to target big fish?
Yeah, now I do, but I think
That's
a lot
fine.
of it's
Don't be shy.
no. A lot of it is luck, and a lot of it's a war of attrition. Where I'm a New York City firefighter, I have a lot of free time, so the more time your lure swims in the water, the better chance you have of catching fish. And then you could then, I guess, cater that to how you want to fish. You want to catch a lot of fish? Do you want to catch big fish? I don't think at any time you can do both. I think that if you're targeting a big fish, you're not going to catch a lot of fish. And like I said, the very first time we saw that one big striped bass, and my heart started racing. And the rod, I saw my brother's rod pulling, and we didn't know what was going to happen. It's like, what's on the end of the line? That made me, I want to do that every single time. And so now I do. I target just big fish. A lot of it being that the gear I use is I guess I'm overgunned 90% of the time. My leader's twice as heavy than what most guys will use. My hooks are, I won't mess around with the hooks. I don't mess around. If I put a hook in a fish, I want that fish coming in no matter what. And I'm sure I miss a lot of bites because of it. But when I do stick one, I want to land it.
I have to ask now that you brought that up about a leader. How heavy is it?
Bass is when I'm bass fishing for big bass is nothing less than 80, between
Okay.
80 and 100.
Okay.
And we've seen in crystal clear water, big bass have no problem hitting that. Now if you wanted to get more bites, you scale down to 50, you mess around with mono, or you use fluoro, depending if it's sinking or floating. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot more guys that are way better at fishing for big fish or for a lot of fish than I am, and they're more scientific. I ground and pound. I find an area that I know holds big fish. I have a window where I think they're going to be there, and with the confidence, I'll go in there thinking I'm going to pull one. And sometimes it happens, and sometimes it doesn't.
No, I was actually going to ask you for some secret sauce or input on actually that, and I think you just answered my question before I even asked it. Is it? Do you find? Is it seasonal? Is it? Are you following the bait patterns? Like, what in your mind is the biggest? How would you say the reason for your success? Let's just put it that way, if I could phrase a question like that.
Once I obviously once again talking to mentors like Alberto and Craig, and both those guys catch enormous fish, and it's funny because they have totally different theories on
Yes.
when to catch the biggest fish. Alberto,
Everything Alberto says is bullshit. Just so I get out there. I'm joking. I love that man.
he's great, and he's a
He's
phenomenal
awesome.
big fish fisherman, and
Yes.
watching someone like that fish and listening to him helps you. You could take a little bit away from everybody. You learn every time. And
Right.
I know he likes to target the slacks, with the theory of that
Yes.
big lazy fish is
Yes.
going to come in and he's going to eat then. And now I know also Craig, opposite, they fish a lot of different areas, opposite areas. Craig likes to fish when the current's at its max, and that biggest fish, that he's the alpha at that point. And both of those are interesting theories. So I just kind of take it and go to, I want to find when the strongest moon is, and I want to find when the most bait's going to be moving out, and then I want to find whenever a current's going to start and slow down. And there's no real apps that you could do because it changes every single night based off of the wind and the moon. I try and figure out when that big fish is going to feed, and then I'm going to spend as much time in that small window casting the lure that I think he's going to eat. So I want my lure in the water as much as possible in the window I think the big one's going to be there.
Are you married to any particular plugs when you're talking big fish? Just out of curiosity. You don't have to go into some secret shit, but I'm
No,
just
no secret stuff. Right now during the summers is soft plastics or a rigged eel or some sort of something, an eel skin or an eel jig. But I found that the majority of our big fish that we catch between the end of June and then the end of September are tight to the bottom and right at the very start and end of the current. And it's not sometimes you don't have a lot of current at all, but you can tell you should get a feeling, and your hair should start standing up in a 20-minute window, and know that if I get a hit during this period on this lure, I'm going to get a big fish. And a big fish is also, it's relative. An early season, a big fish could be an 18-pounder in a back bay spot. That could be the fish. That could be a fish of a season, knowing that on that first moon in that spot, it's going to fill up with water because you're going to get a big push coming in out of the sound. And you know that you've been catching 20-inch fish for 3 weeks, but you know that maybe tonight that you're going to get that really big one. Everything's lining up, and then that's a big fish.
Yeah. When you mentioned that hair rising on your arms, that kind of experience only comes from a personal experience. That you can watch somebody do that, you're not going to have that same feeling. Like, in order for you to feel that way, that you anticipate that fish to be big if you get it, it only is because you've done it before and you kind of expect it. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but I don't think you can learn that. I think you have to experience that.
No, I think you have to experience it, and that also comes from. I mean, here's a perfect example. When the old lighthouse used to be there. There was a time at the lighthouse that if you would go, you'd be leaving after catching a whole bunch of fish, and you thought you had a good night, and then you'd watch guys come out, and you're like, why are these guys coming out? The tide's over, but the current's not over. But you don't know that unless
top of the tide. Yep.
Right, and you don't know that, and you're like, why are these guys? But you know, there's a reason they're coming out there. Like, that guy looked like Mike Milano. Oh, yeah, that was Mike Milano. That guy looked like John Bruno. Oh, maybe that's John Bruno. I mean, the guys are going to target a certain window for a big fish. And then after you see one caught, and then you then try to emulate that every single night, and then you finally hook one that you're like, oh, my God, this is what I'm looking for, and that fish breaks you off or does something wacky. That's a feeling that you want all the time. And that sticks in your mind, that sticks in your notebook, and you circle it, and you say, I know that on that October new moon, I've seen this fish caught, and I hooked one time during this. I have to be in this spot at that location and do it. And when you're there and you cast up, and that wind is coming, and it just your line starts to straighten out, and it comes up off the bottom. You know, whack, it's coming. You can almost call it. You're swinging it, and you're like, I know this hit's coming. And with that confidence, that hit will come because you stay an extra 20 minutes. You fish an extra half an hour when that happens. And that's when I find that I get the biggest of the big.
I'm going to just switch off for a second. I'm going to go back to that. But you were also involved in phase 2 gear, right? So before I forget, because I have it in my notes, tell me about that. How did that came about?
Well, we've been what we're trying to do is we want to make some functional gear for fishermen, like for guys that do the stuff that we do. Like the top we have made now, it's a S element top, and that one's made to drain the water out. Like most tops that we have, they have cuffs on it, and when you're swimming or you're wading out really far and you're taking waves over the head, the last thing you want to do is have a dry top full of water. So we tried to design a lightweight top that drains, but also dries really quick. So when you get up on the rocks, that you stay dry. Or if you go out on a jetty and you take a wave over the head, that you won't have to worry about anything. And I also like to carry 2 tops with me. Like, for Montauk, once you're soaking wet, you don't want to have to put that wet top back on. That's like the worst feeling, like mid-October.
3 a.m. in like November, putting a wetsuit on. Like, there's not a worse thing in the world.
And the tops that we made are now lightweight and small enough. You could roll it up and put it in your bag and carry a couple different tops with you. So the idea behind it is just that we can make some functional gear for guys. And we're all just like, Fred owns his own business, and I'm a firefighter, and my other partner, Miko, he does design and stuff. We don't have a lot of money or rich or anything. So we're making stuff for guys, and then we're saving all the money so that we can upgrade our stuff and make more functional things. We have a bunch of
more ideas and more products, down the line as they become better known, and all that comes in due time.
Yeah, it's just stuff for surf fishermen. We have a couple of cool new things coming out. So
good.
Just keep an eye out for them.
Good. Now I'm going to go back to fishing. Now you are retired fireman, correct?
No. I'm still active.
Oh, you're still active. Okay. All
Yep.
right. I thought you said that you're going to retire soon. Okay. All right.
Soon.
Yeah.
Coming. I
Okay.
hope so.
All right. That's okay. You're fishing in Florida in the wintertime, and you're also guiding down there. Can you use any knowledge that you gain in your striper hunting down there in Florida? Because I got a feeling a lot of people are totally shocked that could be done. They think it's a totally different fisheries, but I would assume that would be not true.
I've seen it firsthand from being down there. That all we use is our exact same gear that we use up here. We just upgrade everything: leader, hooks, line, reels, rods. But you can pretty much take any of your striped bass stuff and head on down to Florida and have a really good chance at catching a trophy fish. The cool thing down there is there's way more species, and the fish are bigger. And the biggest attraction to me to Florida is it extends our season. So, like, we just finished show season, and yeah, there'll be some fish around here pretty soon. But I'm going to fly down to Florida tomorrow. By the time I'm off the plane, got my rental car, packed my plug bag, I have a legitimate shot of catching a fish from 20 to 220 pounds tomorrow night. And that makes my hair stand up.
When you say you got to upgrade the gear, I mean, you're using 100-pound leader as it is for striped bass. What the hell do you use for Florida then? A rope?
Anywhere, well, depending on what we're targeting, but for the really big fish, anywhere from 200 to 250 for the leader. Because a lot of these fish, you're not fighting them for a minute or two or 5 minutes. You could fight the fish for up to an hour, and you don't want that leader rubbing off in its mouth. A lot of things have big teeth down there. You don't want the sharks to bite through. They actually have a hard time biting through the 200 to 250. The monster jacks are going to bury you into the rocks. And you have to remember that anything you catch down there, something else is trying to eat it. It doesn't matter how big it is. Something else is trying to eat whatever you've just caught.
How do you when it comes to I just lost my train of thoughts. I have no idea because I'm kind of getting excited about the big jacks and
I'm super
sharks
excited.
and all the other stuff. I'm like, my thought is like, why am I not on a plane from Florida tomorrow?
Yeah, let's go.
I had a double hernia surgery last week, so I got to go back to work tomorrow. So I'm like going to be dying on a ladders while you are in Florida, throwing your plugs to jump. Well, I'm sure you are, but okay. Well, we're still on the Florida. What is the prime months for that fishery?
It all depends on what you're looking for.
What are you targeting, right?
Yeah, like this time of year, there's a blacktip shark migration. Right. So that's a very cool fishery. We have hundreds of thousands of these blacktip sharks, which are pretty much a 60 to 150 pound bluefish that swims in schools and hits topwater. Yeah, it's insane. Like, you get blacktip shark blitzes. Like, you'll have small jack crevalles blitzing, and then bluefish will come in, and then the sharks come in on them. And then sometimes the hammerheads come in on the blacktips, and that's not as fun because we're not geared for them, and I don't want to deal with a hammerhead. But you get blitzing sharks up and down the beach this time of year, and then the inlets all have just like us at home. If you find the bait and you find a good tide, the inlets will have anything between snook and redfish and tarpon and jacks and sea trout. It's just each inlet and each location has a different specific fish that likes to live there, and you can go target them.
Now, when you're fishing for sharks, I mean, they are, and I've seen some videos and pictures, so I guess I'm just asking the question that I already know the answer to, but the listener might not. They do get really, really, really close, right?
Yeah, you could catch them up into the lip of the beach. So those sharks come right up to the lip, and they come in looking for crabs. They come in you see them in the waves. A lot of times it's sight fishing for them. You'll see them. You see them airing out of the water. A good way to look for them is drive up and down the coast and just look for the beaches that have purple flags up, because the purple flag, it means predator, and it means the sharks are there. And then you'll see them air out of the water. And if you see one jump, there's usually, anywhere between 10 and 100 or 200 of them there.
That are not showing, yeah. Well, I guess my next question is: do you switch to bucktail if they're that close?
You can we definitely we've caught them on bucktails. You catch them on soft plastics. That gets a little costly.
Yes.
Because they're gonna bite through all the soft plastics, and most of the time, if you're not using a plug, they're gonna bite you off, because if they take it down anywhere besides in the corner of their mouth, they're gonna bite through the leader. A plug at least gives you a little bit of defense against their teeth. Um, but yeah, we do. Like last year, actually, the sharks were difficult to catch. There wasn't as many of them, and they didn't want to take top water, but they would hit bottle plugs during the day if you found good current running down the beach. And they were eating a lot of soft plastics. I think we landed I don't know, a dozen or two in the 3 weeks on soft plastics. It's a vicious hit when an 85-pound blacktip eats your soft plastic at about 10 yards off the beach.
I bet. What is the same and what is the different between striped bass fishery and that fishery?
Well, the shark fishery is just a visual, and it's a daytime fishing, kind of like you'd be looking for schools of bunker if you wanted to fish during the day. But the nighttime fishery is the same. Is you want to find which fish you want to target, what time in the current that particular fish wants to feed, uh, and then you want to decide if you want to catch a big one or you want to catch a lot of them. Like snooker, a lot like our bass, that as that current picks up, they'll all line up in a row, and you could whack on slot size snook. But if you want to catch a 40-inch snook, which could be anywhere from 25 to 30 pounds, you're going to want to target a different part of the current. You're going to want to pick when you think that fish will be there. Uh, but other fish, they feed different. Like a big redfish is going to feed different than a big snook. What part of the current he's gonna actually feed in. Um, so it's cool. It's like there's no luck behind it. Once you figure it out, you could kind of go there and have a lot of confidence that, okay, I'm going to get them. Or you could look at the water and say, nah, I don't think I'm going to get them yet. It's not right. And I've actually seen Alberto do that many times. I wouldn't even believe somebody could do it unless after watching him do it multiple times, where he just stands and watches and says, no, it's not time yet.
It's not time yet. It's not time yet. Yeah.
Right, it's not time yet. And you can tell by the moving current. And then all of a sudden,
everybody's catching fish, and he's going, it's not time yet. And then he makes a cast and thinks the biggest fish of the night, and I want to shoot myself.
But that's something like that. That's what really makes me love fishing, is to see that and know there's no luck behind it. To know that he's legitimately targeting a certain time in the current with a certain lure. And he knows if he gets a hit in 5 casts, he's going to get a big fish, or he's not going to get a big one at all. But they call him Crazy Al because he'll also stay out all night and target 10 different spots at 10 different of those windows.
And then he
gets that fish. And then he makes sushi, and then goes back out and catches more fish.
That's true. Why you drive, preferably, and he's sleeping in the front seat.
Right. Yeah, right.
We all had that with Al. But you told me something actually a few days ago when I saw you at the surf day in Jersey. What's with these big jacks? Is this like the new infatuation? You're infatuated catching like a world record now?
The world record was caught 2 years ago, close to where Fred and I own our house. So there's a very good chance that we can hook one. I don't know if we could land the record. The record right now stands at 59.9 pounds, and that's a giant Jack Crevalle.
Yes,
but I love them. They're just like our bass in a way that you can pattern when the bigger ones are going to come in. They're going to hit at a certain time. They're going to be in a certain location. So once again, it's not luck. If you get a certain weather pattern coming with a certain wind and a certain moon, if I go out, I've got this 45-minute window that I'm going to hook one of these things that's probably going to break me off, maybe break my rod, try and pull me in the water. But if I get it, you have a chance at a world record. That's something that really gets my heart going. I'm super psyched. I've been making phone calls all week about getting stronger hooks and what won't straighten out and how am I going to lock it down. And
I think my biggest jack was probably 30 pounds, and I think I cried for an hour afterwards because I was so tired.
Well, so it's a funny story. When we, as fishermen, like my first fish of the year, my first good bass every season, I think is 30 pounds. So I'll pick it up and I'm like, wow, that's got to be a 30. And I'll carry my boga probably 3 trips out of a year now. And I'll carry one early when I think I'm going to get a big one. And I'm like, wow, that's definitely a 30 pounder. And I'll weigh it and it's probably about 18 pounds. It's the first one I've seen in 3 or 4 months. So of course I think it's 30 pounds, but it never is. And I'm like, oh, wow, that really wasn't that big. And then I'll carry it during the summer and I'll get a big one. And I'll say, wow, that's got to be at least 45 pounds. And then I'll weigh it and it's not. It's probably 32 pounds. So it takes a little while to get used to what the fish weigh, like every year. But by the time you weigh a couple, you've got an idea, give or take, I'd say 5 pounds, right? You could pretty much tell what a bass is after you've weighed a couple. So we were down fishing in Florida this last time and we were into these bigger jacks. And my buddy landed a really good one, and there was a local there. And I'm like, hey, man, we didn't have a scale with us at that point. I said, hey, what? We thought we were in the 30, 40 pounders. So I said to my friend, I was like, hey, buddy, what do you think that weighs? And he's like, what do you think? I'm like, at least 28 pounds. And he kind of shook his head. And I'm like, 22 pounds? And he still shook his head. And I'm like, how big is that? He's like, you're lucky if that's like 18, 19 pounds. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. So we had to kind of switch gears because we thought we were into 30, 40 pounders and they weren't. They were 20 pounders. So I went out and bought an electric scale to carry with us until we started getting into the really big ones. And then we put them on the scale. We had them 36 pounds, 42 pounds. And those are gigantic Jack Crevalles. They look like giant trevallies, the GTs they catch in Australia.
Yeah. I'm sure you would like to get your hands on those too, huh?
Oh, it's going to happen. That I think is my retirement present to myself. Either the Seychelles or somewhere in Australia or Africa.
Yeah, those things are amazing. I know Patrick Sabile always tells me about that stuff. I see some videos that are fairly insane. How do people contact you about guiding in Florida and booking you and talking to you about this? Is there
just through social media?
Email? Social media, okay.
Yeah, the Comanche Surfcast, and I mean this year we were going to advertise, but we booked out before we could even put it up.
Listen, that's a good problem to have. I'm going to put your email into the link to the show notes so people can just email you right from the podcast if they're interested.
Sure. Actually, this year we're going to run a week or two during the summer for the tarpon on the beach during the glass minnow run, which is that may be my new favorite fishery. Is chasing those giant tarpon on the soft sand with soft plastics. So you pretty much are down there in August and you have to go scout till you find where these pods of glass minnows are. And there's pelicans on them, so you could find them. And there's usually, once you find them with the tarpon on them, they'll eat. And they'll eat the no live bait needed. They'll eat mega shads, any sort of soft plastic you can get to them. And you only land one out of every 40 or 50 you hook. But I mean, you're in for an acrobatic show of epic proportions.
That's nice in August. That must be a lot of fun. All right, Pete, listen, I want to thank you for your time. And I also want you to go finish packing for your Florida trip. And I know you're psyched. I can tell that you're psyched, but I do appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us, man. I know we've been going back and forth about doing this. See, it's not that hard.
No, not that hard. Thanks so much for having me, Z. I really had a good time, and I'll send you some pictures if we get some good ones.
Oh, no, please do, and please go back, pack, and safe trip to Florida tomorrow, okay?
All right, brother. You have a great day.
All right, buddy.
All right, dude. Later.